But the bridge that I'm going to use here is an incredibly awkward and delusional piece of sound from Bill O'Reilly, who was on Stephen Colbert. And I don't play this sound because I expect you to meditate on Bill O'Reilly's geopolitical insights. But I do think that there is something here about the connection that you're drawing, that even in this sort of minimal way that Obama did, we're still seeing this played out in the popular culture here with O'Reilly in a really sort of stunningly overstated way that, could have some very real implications for both how the public actually understands what's actually happening in Syria right now, as well as, again, in some ways actually kind of aggrandizing and reifying a group like ISIL by sort of injecting it with far more power than it has in reality. So let's listen to Bill O'Reilly, and then you can take it from there. You can get remedial with Mr. O'Reilly.
Now, the right-wing responsibility. There is too much.
Oh, sorry. I guess we okay, go ahead.
We went to war in Iraq. We treated it as a military event. So why is this not a mistake to treat this as a military event?
We wouldn't be an occupier here. This is a war of attrition against a terror group. That's the same philosophy as the Nazis. It's the Third Reich. It's the same. There's no.
But how does that stop like a lone gunman here in the United States?
Doesn't. I told you, you can't stop it.
You can't stop it. So why are we going? Why would we then declare war based on this?
Because then, rather than outsourcing the fight against ISIS to the Kurds, NATO would do it. And NATO would then destroy command and control of ISIS, all right, and Al-Qaeda. Destroy it. So there'd be, right now, guys like Mateen think ISIS is winning because they're on the internet and ISIS is telling them they're winning and ISIS is causing all kinds of trouble. Once the world sees that these people are being annihilated, and I mean annihilated, all right, that whole propaganda, we're winning the jihad, the caliphate, we're going to get this established, vanishes.
Professor Cole, thoughts, and then tell us what's actually happening there.
Well, Mr. O'Reilly's premise that if only you destroyed the leadership of this organization in the Middle East, that it would tamp down on terrorism in the West because young men would not see it as a success story and would avoid it, is not true, and can be demonstrated not to be true because bin Laden was killed and people still follow Al-Qaeda. And actually, some sociologists did an experiment in the 50s with people who believed that the world was about to end and gave dates, and then wanted to know what happened when the dates passed, as they always do, without the world ending, at least so far. And they found that people who had those beliefs, who were disappointed in the details, actually doubled down and became more committed to their organization and to their leader. And you can see this with, the Franklins and the evangelical community who often set dates for the end of the world. It doesn't work that way. People are not as rational as Mr. O'Reilly assumes that they are. But the other thing, of course, is that ISIL is not very much like the Nazis in any important dimension. The Nazis had an army, one of the great armies of the world, with the Junker Prussian tradition behind it, and lots of tanks and iron and airplanes, and took over Europe. ISIL has, from the very beginning, been hyped in the Western press. And it has a few dusty desert towns in places where the central government was unable to assert its authority. And it was never, an important geopolitical event of the sort that people made it out to be. And it is, as the president points out, gradually being rolled back now, mainly by the efforts of regional forces.
Yeah, can you sort of elaborate upon that a bit? I mean, is it primarily the Kurds? Is it Iran? What is the sort of operational reality of how they're getting rolled back and what's filling that vacuum?
No, it's just that nobody likes them.
Yeah.
So,
right.
I mean, if you totaled up all of the campaigns against them, you have hardline Shiites who are allied with Iran, and then you have Kurds of various sorts, both sort of right-wing Kurds and far left-wing anarchist Noam Chomsky-style Kurds, and then you have
our favorite Kurds on the Majority Report.
Yeah. And then you have the various kinds of Arab rebels in Syria against the regime, who also have taken on ISIL, and in fact, Al Qaeda and ISIL split with one another. So Al Qaeda attacks ISIL, and then you have the Syrian regime itself, which still probably controls 70% of the population, is sending its army against it. And Russia has been involved, and Iran has been involved, and even the Gulf countries, which are more afraid of Iran than they are of ISIL, have flown some sorties against ISIL and so forth. So you can't really find very much of anybody in the region who hasn't attacked them.
Right. And yet this myth that they still sort of represent some kind of enduring truth about the nature of Islam or Muslims endures in the United States and endures in Western discourse.
Hello, you. I'm Sam Seder. Looking for smart progressive talk that is occasionally amusing? Well, subscribe to our YouTube feed. Subscribe to our podcast. Like us on Facebook. And just generally enjoy us.